So, why make a custom sheath for a knife? Well, the knife was awesome. I'm too poor to spend money on a custom Kydex sheath or a leather sheath. Sorry, I just don't have the money. I'm hardworking guy, and I don't have a lot of extra money. So, I decided to look it up and see what I could find online. Found through various sources that it's something that really is doable for the average person, in my opinion. If there's interest, I could do a instructional video, a DIY, on how to make these custom Kydex sheaths. Because one thing about making a custom sheath is if the sheath maker doesn't have your knife, you have to send your knife into them for them to form it around it, especially for Kydex. And then you have to deal with insurance on your knife, on the shipment, if you're worried about losing it. There's a lot of things to deal with there, and it just costs. It's costly. It's not a cheap alternative. Ends up being, as costly as the knife, maybe twice as expensive, 3 times as expensive. I've seen, custom leather sheaths that are $300, and this knife was $55, $60. So, so when I decided to make a custom sheath for my SOG Northwest Ranger, and I had a few other knives I wanted some sheath, a better sheath for, I started doing research and looking into materials and methods, especially geared towards the Pacific Northwest for my situation. The high humidity, the high amount of rain, the cold, the wet. So I looked into it, and I'm not a good sewer. I'm not that great at sewing. And leather making requires sewing, as well as if you want to get a bunch of nylon and make a nylon sheath, what have you. But Kydex is thermoforming. What that means is you get it a certain temperature and you can form it around an object, and it'll form very well. The thinner Kydex will form better but be less strong, and that's 0.060 inches. As seen on this Boker Plus sheath, that's 0.060 inches compared to 0.080. Alright, so I'm going to do kind of a tour of the custom Kydex sheaths that I've made. Here we've got one for the Buck Punk. And this is the taco style. Got a nice drain hole and 5 rivets. Boker tech lock adapter fits on it perfectly. I can carry it scout style or normal style. I have a couple different ways I like to carry it. And then I made one for my good old Buck 119. I've had this since 1997. So I think that's 17, 18 years now. Not sure if I'm doing the math correctly there, but anyway, this is just another taco style sheath I made. I came with a decent leather sheath, but it's something that wore out over time. Over that amount of time, it's something that needed to be replaced. As you can see, it's not perfect again. I cut this one out and did it all by hand, just like the other ones. This one's a little smaller with only 4 rivets. And it's got a little bit of rattle, but it retains it very well. It's got easy deployment, and it's lightweight and very weather resistant. So I just move my tech lock adapter, my Boker tech lock adapter, between sheaths depending on which knife I'm carrying that day. And I made all of these compatible with the tech lock adapter, as far as all the holes line up perfect on each part. So, all right, then continuing with the custom sheaths that I've made, a little bit more. This is the pancake style sheath. This is for the M-Tech 151. It's a cold steel knockoff. It's actually a very, very nice knife for the price. And I made this sheath, and I put these screws in it to assist with the retention. If you loosen it up, it doesn't hold it as tight, etc. If you tighten it up, it'll hold it better. It's just something that I like to have. And this is not a knife I wear on my side. I put it in a backpack or what have you if I'm going to bring it along, so I don't need to put a belt loop on it. I could use cord, paracord or what have you if I needed to carry it, but to help with retention, this is my solution. And it does retain it very nicely. This sucker's heavy, but it's not coming out on its own. It has a little bit of rattle. Not much, really. I think I did pretty good on that. And I like to, have good deployment, so I've always got that thumb push-off spot here. That's something I haven't talked about yet, to deploy your knife. And that's a nice big knife. I definitely like that. I'll do a review on that later. Continuing the discussion on Kydex sheaths. With the research I've done and the information I've found online, and for my personal preferences, I've taken a lot of different routes to try to, once I made the sheath itself, how to attach it to the belt. What's the most comfortable way to carry it long term, not just short term. What I've come up with, my favorite alteration, is for my SOG Northwest Ranger. I created this, what I call a drop attachment, and then added a leather belt loop. This is actually the leather belt loop that originally came with the knife, and I just cut it off the sheath that it came with and reused it. So the idea here is I can carry this a lot lower on my side. The handle is not going to be digging into my side all day. So the leather belt loop is a lot more comfortable to carry next to my skin on my belt. It moves a lot easier. It's a lot more malleable. At one point, I had played with making a Kydex belt loop, which worked pretty well, but it is flexible a little bit. This is the .080 inch thick Kydex. And it worked pretty well, like I was saying, but it's not as comfortable. This hard plastic on your side all day, moving through bush, being jostled around, is not comfortable, in my opinion. Neither are the Tech Lock adapters, really. Same problem. It's hard plastic on your hip, on your side, and that's not comfortable all day. It works, and it's rigid and has a lot of advantages, but comfort is not one of them, in my opinion. So I came up with this, as I was saying. I think this combination of Kydex, leather, and then I added a pouch on here even of nylon. I think this combination is the winning combination for me. It's got everything I want. It's got the weather-resistant, Kydex right next to the blade. It's got a drop down so that I can carry it low on my hip without it digging into my side all day. And it's got a leather belt loop that's nice and big and flexible and comfortable. On the front of the SOG Northwest Ranger, I've got this Condor pouch, accessory pouch. It came with a tactical vest that I bought, and I didn't like it on there, so I took it off and figured out that it fit on here perfectly. So it's got Velcro, and I've got this paracord attached to the belt loop just to keep it from sliding off, just in case. Also to have a little extra cordage. And inside, I've got tinder in the form of cotton balls with Vaseline in them, and I've got a fire steel, Swedish fire steel, which I really like. It's got an emergency whistle on the striker. And then inside here I've also got a waterproof pill container. I've actually got a rare disease condition where I must take pills to survive every day of my life. So this is the number one survival item for me. This is something that's more important than the knife even, in a way. So without this, I would die in about 2 days. So definitely a good survival piece of survival equipment for me to have personally. And that's waterproof, so it doesn't matter that it's in nylon. And even if the nylon gets soaked, it's not going through the Kydex to the knife. And I've got my fire starting equipment in a plastic baggie. So I think I've got a pretty nice system here for my needs. It covers all the bases. It's not particularly heavy either. So this is something that I came up with just from personal experience, DIY kind of thing, based on research, testing, carrying the knives, crawling through bush with the knives, just various things to see what would be best. As I said at the beginning, a knife is only as good as its sheath. You're not going to have it on you, then what's the point? If you aren't comfortable carrying it, you might not have it when you need it. A couple more things I wanted to add for the SOG Northwest Ranger custom Kydex sheath that I made, just to give you guys examples, show you, guys and girls I should say, show you what I did and what worked for me. So we'll take this pouch off. Dust it a little bit. So, like I said, I've got this drop attachment to carry it low on my side so the handle isn't digging into me. But I've made this to where you can easily unscrew the leather belt loop, and these holes are compatible with the Boker Tech Lock adapter. So it's compatible with MOLLE that way. If I want to attach it to my backpack, I just switch out the belt loop for the Tech Lock adapter, and then you can carry it easily on a MOLLE system. And then you can use the extra grommets to tie it down even more. You can also unscrew this drop down attachment and then just put the Tech Lock adapter on it directly to carry it scout style, if you prefer carry it horizontally. So a couple things there about my ideas and design of the Kydex sheath and where I ended up with my design on that SOG Northwest Ranger. And another thing that I've discovered, or that I like to do, or is an option, is this small neck knife. I can attach it right there. Just simply put a bolt through there. I've got a rubber spacer that I would put right there, and then one bolt is sufficient to hold that neck knife on there. And then since it's only one bolt, you can move it a little bit up and down if you want to deploy the knife. And it's just something I played with. But this knife is so small and easy to carry that it doesn't need to be on the big knife, in my opinion. And it's better to have extra equipment capabilities carrying with you. So that's why I put on this pouch. There we go. That's the SOG Northwest Ranger custom Kydex sheath. One other thing is I glued in some felt. And the reason I did that is the one drawback for Kydex sheaths, at least the ones I've made, is that it does wear on the guard, because that's where it holds the knife in. So that is the point of the most wear, and it's just something to keep in mind, and that's why I put the felt in there, just to soften it up a little bit. That felt will retain water, but I didn't put much in there. See, and again, when you're making your Kydex sheaths or looking for one to get, make sure it's got a good spot to push off with your thumb, because that's the easiest way to deploy it. You don't have to push off with your thumb, but it makes it nice, the little thumb push off. So what are the pros and cons of Kydex? Kydex is cheap. It's easy to work with. It's especially cheap if you get it in the recycled form, which is perfectly fine for me. I haven't seen any problems with that. It's high quality and it looks nice. And it was cheaper. I bought 10 sheets of 0.080 inch Kydex V material for $22. $25 is the average price. I've seen it go all the way down to $17 for that specific Kydex. So it's cheap, it's easy to source, it's easy to get, it's easy to work with. If you are, say I formed this, heated it up and made it, and the angle was wrong, the great thing about Kydex is you can just reheat it again slowly, slow increments. You raise the temperature from a low temperature up to the point you want it at in slow 10 to 15 degree Fahrenheit increments. And it'll actually reform back to its original shape. It'll go flat and you can redo it. So if I was unhappy with this, I could easily reheat it and reshape it over and over. There's probably a limit to that, how many times you can do that, but I've never found that limit. Because it's a thermoform material and it forms around the knife, you get excellent knife retention. You don't need the loops to hold the knife in, and I really like that you have that good knife retention, but easy deployment, because you can just, push off with your thumb, deploy the knife really easy. So it's thick. This one, the 0.080 inch one, is thick and very durable, yet still slightly flexible. And it's waterproof. That's one of the great things about it. And that's especially important in my situation.